Hey, welcome back, people. I hope you're having a cool week, right? It's been so hot in this country where we find music from all over the world. And Murray Thomas is not with us this week because he's on tour. In fact, he's probably going to be on tour for a while. They're catching concerts across the country, and then he'll report back to us. But for now, we have our leadoff man back. Fred, take it over, sir.
This week, I'm going to talk about Irma Thomas. It's easy to forget some of the older soul R&B artists, but there's still many of them are still around and still strong as ever, coming out with great albums. This one's called After the Rain. She came out in 2006 with this album, a year after Katrina destroyed her home, Hurricane Katrina. Luckily, she was in a gig in Texas and so didn't have to go through that horrendous time. It's a beautiful album. Things are about getting washed out, of course, because of the hurricane. Some of the themes are the rain. Shelter in the Rain ends this album. She does I Wish I Knew How to Be Free, Billy Taylor song. She does some Delta blues, Make Me a Pallet on the Floor, and Soul of a Man. And she does the old Drifters tune, I Count the Tears. So it's a great mixture of R&B, soul, gospel, blues. It's a contemporary album, and she won a Grammy that year for this album. And the voice is powerful, and she's totally invested in her music and songs. Every song on the album is a soul-stirring song. There's no way else to put it. And you can tell she's been through a lot, and her voice, though, is clear and strong as ever. Then a couple of years later, she came out with an album called Simply Grand. And her producer, Scott Billington, Rounder Records, put it together with 12 piano players and a small string orchestra, and it's stunning. It's funk, jazzy, sophisticated. It's an impressive showcase for a voice. The players push her to a new place to get into that heart of the song. She really works well with them. This is not just a gimmick. And there's Randy Newman is on it, Dr. John, Marsha Ball, Ellis Marcellus, and Nora Jones is just some of the piano players backing her up. And they really frame her voice in a new way, giving it some new texture and new emotional edge. The dynamics of the music and her voice just is a great combination. It's an impressive album, and I would highly recommend it for blues soul people who are into that music.
Quick question. Her name is very familiar. Was she part of
What's
any?
the question?
She's very familiar. The name Irma Thomas is very familiar. Was she
Yeah,
involved
she's
in any?
considered the soul queen of New Orleans. She's been around
It's
since
in the 60s, right? It's in the 60s and 70s.
She had oh, I forget what her biggest hit back then was, and a lot of British rock bands, including the Stones, I think, covered her song, a couple of her songs.
Jim was researching it as we speak.
And she's been on Rounder Records since 1966, I think was her first Rounder record album.
And I can prove I'm not as old as you by saying, when I think of Rounder Records, I think of Nancy Griffith.
Oh, yeah. She got her start with Rounder.
Rounder, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know
They-
this.
I actually worked with Scott Billington in the 1980, 1979. He was living in Newburyport where I lived, and we shared space. We were laying out my newspaper in the same place he was doing graphics for
Mm.
Rounder back then, and learning all the business. And now he's at the top of that label.
Wow. That's interesting. Spencer, you were about to say something, sir?
Oh yeah, just I know who Nancy Griffith is. I like her music.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. You got a plus point there.
Well, thank you. It's okay with you. I'd like to go next.
Okay, Jim. So what's the report? Irma Thomas is hit.
Report
She's
his
had hits.
influences. I think this is a clear indication of the kind of music that Irma Thomas makes. Influences Etta James, Mahalia Jackson, Pearl Bailey, Nancy Wilson, Brooke Benton, John Lee Hooker, and Percy Mayfield.
Yeah, that's
You
a
know,
good
so
way of
that's-
putting it.
Pretty good
Mm.
description of what you would expect, and a very, very extensive recording history beginning in 1959. It looks like
Didn't she have some hits or something?
she did.
I don't-
A lot of singles, Hitting on Nothing, Ruler of My Heart, Time Is on My Side. That's a familiar
Time is
song.
on my side. That's the one. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the big one.
Time Is on
Oh,
My
I
Side.
actually heard her version at Trader Joe's not too long ago.
Really
Yes, I did. It was a
Good.
classic R&B station that they were playing that day.
Trader
Cool.
Joe's music.
cool, very nice.
Wow. All right. So we finally found that connection that we were all alluding to. Time is on our side.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Fred. All right. This just shows you can dive into Irma Thomas's catalog. You're going to find a lot of goodness there. And thank you, Fred, for our leadoff hit.